Nice to meet you, Thomas.
You too.
Oh, let's see. Well, we're not going to be able to go live on Facebook.
Oh, ticker. We
All
ran
right.
out of time.
Yeah, so we're live now, though. We just are not live on Facebook, unfortunately, which is generally where our best audience is, but we're going to survive. We're going to move forward. Everybody, we're so sorry we're running late, and I won't throw Joe under the bus at all, but Joe had technical difficulties. I'm just
It's
kidding.
Friday. It is Friday.
It is Friday, and it's Good Friday, so it's all good. And so, everybody, I'm Brandon Lee. I am the founder of Funnel Amplified, and always with me is Thomas Ross. You want to introduce yourself, Thomas?
Sure. Hello, everybody. I'm Thomas Ross. I'm the founder of Digital HQ and a active person working with Brandon on Funnel Amplified as the CRO.
And our guest is Mr. Dr. Joseph Hill. Joe, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, good to be here first. Brandon, Thomas, what an honor. Sorry for the glitch for you Facebook folks that aren't even watching us right now. I come
like,
to you. Yeah.
I feel like we need to just like take a breath and maybe.
Yeah, no kidding. You know, that's life. We just had a little more life just thrown at us today. Right. And I'm coming to you from a place that had a little dusting of snow yet on Good Friday. So I'm in the Twin Cities of Minnesota, and had the great fortune of getting to know Brandon and some of our other leadership excursions. But I come from the world of education primarily. My life work is just pouring into, at the moment, campus leaders. So generally speaking, just anybody that has some leadership capacity and influence in the world of education. I'm married to a 7th grade life science teacher. I'm a 30-year principal, superintendent, teacher. I still teach doctoral level at our local university here. So yeah, that's kind of the platform, if you will.
And you two are a lot closer to each other geographically in the world than I am, which is kind of unusual for us, Thomas.
Yes, very much so. It's usually the other way around. I'm actually in Fergus Falls, Minnesota, so I'm not far from you at all.
Well, Joe, for crying out loud, we can talk offline, but my parents live in Fergus Falls.
Wow.
That is crazy.
And it's not a big place, so that's very interesting.
Yeah, no more Target. So we do all of our shopping at Fleet Farm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I do it in Fargo. So there you go.
There you go.
All right. Well, love it. But let's get to the topic at hand. And hopefully we've got a few people sticking around with us. There we go. Janice came on and said, figured there was technology issue. Thanks for joining us and hanging in there, Janice. And we're not going to blame anybody today, but we are blaming Joe, but we're not blaming anybody. I'm just kidding.
I'll take it. You know, it's that interview where they said, well, what's one of your strongest suits? I say, well, I'm responsible because I've been responsible for everything that went bad in my prior institution, right? Yes.
I love it. I love it. And everybody know Joe and I are good friends, and I wouldn't be giving him so much grief if I didn't think he could handle it. And we, tech happens, life happens. So, Joe, what I wanted to start with, today's topic is how to 10x your conversations through using social media. But before we get there, I like to go back to, you've been on social for quite a while. You're using it for your business. Can you tell us what you were doing before and what was happening?
Before social, or I would even just say in social. I mean,
yeah, what you were doing in social before you came into these new systems you found that are helping you 10x your conversations.
Yeah, I would say I was just a cup of water in that sea of sameness, right? I was just doing what everybody else was doing, grabbing a PDF and throwing it out there and trying to, maybe write some content that was important to me, but I don't know how important it really was to anybody else. So, yeah, I really powerful, life-altering content and purpose and passion that I drive towards every single day. But there was a gap. There was just almost like I was talking to my wife the other day and I said, honey, because we still burn wood at our house. Tom, it looks like you come from, looks like you're in a sauna, dude. But so we still burn wood. And I said, it was kind of like this. And I grabbed this piece of wood and I grabbed the match. And I was trying to start the log with a match, right? The log was my passion, my purpose, my product, my solution, but I couldn't really get much, honestly, I couldn't get much going. I needed to figure out a way to do it differently. So I had a glaring problem, but I didn't even know what questions to ask. So that was my starting point. I worked really, really hard. I think I offloaded a bunch of friends and colleagues. They were like, ugh, you're just coming on way too strong, dude. Yeah, it wasn't working. I'll be honest. It just abjectly was not working.
Yeah. Thomas, you have any questions for him on that before we move on?
Well, I will say, number one, you're not the first person to mention the sauna look.
You're not the first person to mention the sauna look today.
That's right. That's true.
We had a client call about an hour and a half ago, and that was about the first thing he said too.
I'm usually in my office in Fargo, but because, as you know, there's been a nasty blizzard that's rolled right through, I had to get out of town before I got buried.
Got it.
But as to questions, yeah, no, I think that's a very good way to put things, and I think most people fall in to that kind of pattern. And what generally happens is they don't get the results that they were hoping for or expecting, or in some way thinking should happen. They tend to back away, so they don't take another swing at it. They just assume that doesn't work. This doesn't work, so I guess I better do something else. And
true.
Yeah,
almost like that match under the log. After a while, the match goes out, and you go, "Well, I guess we're done."
Not gonna work. So very interested to hear what you did next.
Well, after I think a good poke in the eye from a good friend,
Right.
Brandon indicated that we've been friends for a while, but I got lured into it. Was just my own curiosity to say, you know what, it appears like you're doing some things a bit different or differently, and I'd like to learn about that. So good friends, I think, are good at poking you in the forehead or the eyes or wherever you happen to just need to be poked. But I still remember it was this, it was kind of this pivot of, hey, Joe, nobody really cares about you. And after a good cry, or your material or your solutions, the reality is they care about them. They care about themselves. They care about their issues, their problems. So if all you're doing out there is just throwing these logs, and nobody cares about your log. Nobody cares about your solution. So you got to figure out just a different approach here altogether. So I engaged into this learning process that was really quite powerful, and it has altered every single day of my life over the last few months in a good way.
Yeah, what is that? What are you doing differently?
Really bringing this different mindset that says, honestly, I just I got to care about my people, okay, less than myself. And my people, I've got loads of contacts out there, and they're just from their collegial contacts. They're other campus leaders that I've gotten to know over the years, and they're still hanging with me. So the pivot was creating content, because that's something that I've always done since the early 2000s. I've created content. I'm a creative from some of the social awareness language that we've used. So I just enjoy the first part of my every day is just sitting down, and it used to be what's on my mind I'd create. Mm-hmm. But because I've been listening and just paying attention, here's what's on your mind collectively. Here's some themes that I'm seeing out there. So let me try to help frame it in a way that's just really practical for you. And I've been pushing that type of content out. And it's not just, it used to just be that in itself. Boom, I'm done. I didn't know how to engage after that until I had a chance to just do some discovery. And Brandon, you helped to open the eyes to say, you know, that's step one, right? Step two, or the other question is, what are you doing with other content that's out there? Because I'd be looking at my content going, anybody looking at it? How many likes? I'd spend all day just looking at my content. No, I still look at it every once in a while, but now I'm looking at other people's content going, you know what? I think there's some truth to that. Where did that come from? I'm curious to know more. So I've just been engaging a little bit more in just the comment section. It's easy to like. I think it takes some intentionality to actually just go, I see you. That's amazing. So that's been another discipline that is no longer a discipline. It has moved into that space of joy.
That's so good. You've said a lot there, and I want to unpack some of it because I know there's a lot of people that were in, or that are currently in the same boat that you were in, which is I'm doing a lot of work, I'm spinning a lot of plates, and nothing's really happening. And I threw my hands up when you were saying that, because that's the joke we see is, social media doesn't work. And it's not that social media doesn't work. You were just working the tool the wrong way, is generally what's happened with most people. I worked the tool the wrong way for a long time until I came to this point of going, God, this is just a waste of time, and found somebody that said, no, you're doing it wrong. And here we are. So for anyone else that's in that boat and listening, where was that kind of aha moment for you? And what were the first couple of steps that made the biggest difference for you?
Yeah, in a word, relationships. So how are you leveraging, your care and attention for others out there? So the likes, the comments, and making them genuine. And you can tell when there's just the yucky people out there that are commenting on your stuff just to try to get false engagement. But realizing that, we're all on this mission, right? To do good work or better work, to offer practical solutions to people. I'm not trying to sell anything. I've got something of great value, and I think you do as well. So being able to really lean into that and spend daily time, not just, a few minutes a day, but probably a few hours a day, paying attention to what's happening on social. And I just have found those intermittent times when I'm doing nothing else, right? I'm engaging with folks out there. And that's been really important in the fact that it's amplified other people paying attention to me. So when you do good happens, right? There's just been this inverse property of, actually, it's not inverse. I think it's just, we'll call it an amplified property, right? That the more I pay attention to you, the more you're going, hey, it appears like you're really aligning your work to my work. I'd like to know more about that. So here's just from a very, very practical frame. This is what I work from at least on a weekly basis. So my content, if I'm pushing that out there, and then I'm engaging in, I think of a 4-square box. Okay. It starts with content. I'm pushing that out. Then it moves into comments. I'm making sure that I'm commenting on other people's content out there authentically, not as a slime ball, right? Authentically. Okay. Then it moves into conversations, because what's happening is the more I comment, the more people are commenting back, and we're having it's comment to comment, but it's not a conversation until we invite the conversation.
Right. And
it's we seem to really be bumping into each other a ton out there. There's those things that you're doing out there. I'm curious. Do you want to get on I call it a virtual coffee. Do you want to have a cup of virtual coffee? And most often people are like, yeah, totally swamped right now, but does next week work?
Yeah.
And then I'll give that content. I'll give that contact over to my admin, and she'll just set it up. And it's literally the best part of my everyday, because these conversations are happening every day, right? And they're not about me. Literally, they're not about me. They just tell me more about those 3 things that I've been seeing you doing out in social. And guess what happens? After the content, the comments, the conversation, eventually they're going to say, "What is it that you do again? Tell me about what you do." I never solicit that. Okay, because I don't need to. And then I share, here's some of the things. Has your team been losing some momentum? It's been a tough season in the public sector, and everybody's losing momentum. So I'll just say, are you losing some momentum right now? And everybody says, yeah. Do you need a pep talk? And things are starting to pick up in terms of just me flying out and giving pep talks to people, right? But it all starts with content and comments, driving conversations to, you want to call it conversion.
Conversations.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
No, but that's been a methodology that has been working.
Yeah. So frame that again quickly for everybody, and then I'm going to put Janice's question back up because I think you're a great person to answer her question. But tell us what your C's are in your 4 quadrants again.
Content, to comments, to conversations, to conversions. And conversions is, because all the rest of this stuff is free. Conversion is when you start to monetize. You provide a solution that people are paying for.
That's really good. I like it. I know I've seen it before from you, but I like it again as I heard it.
Well, guess what? The top 3, all of the free stuff, think about it's paper. I can start a match and I can burn paper. That starts a fire. And the paper will burn some other things that eventually will, okay, now you have earned the right for your log to ignite. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me pull Janice's question up here again, and you I think you were already touching on this. If you want to read it, but the question becomes, how are you figuring that out? Which is to share content that you think is relevant, and what if we, or her in this case, don't think that she can interpret or have anything of value to share or provide?
Janice, and I love seeing you out there. Good to hear from you. There's just a level of wisdom that we all get, and there's nothing. They say there's nothing new under the sun. I mean, people are struggling with the same issues. So if you can have a generalized trend towards people are struggling in the world of conversation, right? Things go south at home for me when we're not effectively communicating. That's a truism that goes across all teams and organizations as well. So if you have to guess, I mean, I'd guess there. I'd guess around team connection. How come 1 + 1 doesn't equal 5, like it should be when we get our people together working on? Why does 1 + 1 equal a negative number? You can write content about effective relationships at work and how you bring your best to that game. So there's some general themes there, I think, Janice, that we can all develop content around. But then there are going to be seasonal issues, right? Just related to whatever newspaper headline happens to be reading across our communities. You can offer some insight and value there as well.
Yeah, and Janice, I would say, right, all the questions that you hear that people ask, that's a great way to provide content. If you create content or curate someone else's content that's based on a question that someone asked, it's a really easy way to provide content that your audience is interested in. And we go through a real simple 3-step process. Find an article and read it that relates to a question that someone asked. And then once you read it, you write, I'm sharing this article because somebody asked this question. And this is a really important question to this community because, and you fill it in and you share 2, 3, 4 key points that you found most important from the article. And it's a really easy way to get started And the main thing is you got to listen to the questions and write them down so you don't forget them. At least that's me. I got to write them down so I don't forget them.
I still have this thing, Brandon. Okay, you taught me old school, because I used to use all sorts of different, just applications, and there it is.
Yeah.
There's something that's more effective about just writing those things down.
Yeah, I like ink on paper, and not in everything. I'm not totally old school, but there's certain things like journaling and writing down those questions that I do ink on paper. Thomas, you've been quiet today. What's rattling around in that brilliant mind of yours?
Well, I don't know about brilliant, but rattling, that happens a lot. I agree with everything. I would probably take it a little bit and place it so that people understand that social, by definition, and in the way that it acts for people, is about relationships. It's about people, and how you behave on social is no different than how you behave when you walk into a room of people. Right? That person that is screaming at the top of their lungs, consuming all the oxygen and over talking everybody, isn't getting anywhere. In fact, they're annoying everybody, and everybody's going to leave. Right? But those people that listen and have conversations and relate to other people and tell them about their experiences while they listen to their experiences and help them in that regard, or vice versa, are able to create good conversations, create real relationships, and create value that become conversions, in that case in the form of friendships. But in truth, that's what we're doing online as well. So those 4 C's cover all of those things, but it all starts with educating and helping people and being real when you do it. So that if it's seen as a sales pitch, then the impact is going to be what we've all learned to be the case. It's not going to go anywhere, because people can smell a sales pitch before you even finish writing it. So, you've got to be out there as a real person who cares about the other people that hopefully are reading it. And likewise, when you take the opportunity to engage. And in that, I mean, when we comment, and you said that so nicely, you want to do that in real terms and relate back to them in a way that's real, and not just some flippant comment that means you probably didn't even read what it is you're commenting on. You want to comment in real terms and become part of the conversation, and that makes an enormous difference. So when you really use these things, it's amazing what happens. So I couldn't agree any more than that.
Yeah, you think about how just yucky it feels to be on the other side. The other day I posted just this day, here's the spam that I've received from people that it looks like you're intersecting my world. Your tagline on LinkedIn says you do something in education, but it just felt gross when you reached out to me, right? And forevermore, we just log those. And we disconnect with them, right? But the more that we can be less, not manipulative at all, but really caring and shining the light of encouragement and respect on the work that is being done out there. I've even started to record these conversations to say, oh my God, what you just told me about right there, I've never heard about before, as a strategy for closing a gap. Are you okay if we record? Can you just go back and do that segment again? Because our world needs to hear what you're doing. Because our people get kind of insulated and isolated. They're doing their thing. And if they're not on social, because they're really working hard to, their own mission, their own vision to occlude gaps that are in their communities, I help to amplify that. And it's just a benefit to others, but it also makes the person that's leading those initiatives feel pretty doggone good as well.
Yeah.
And it's not manipulative.
No, and I love that. And there's 2 things that came to mind with that. Number one is 100-year-old document. It's a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. Right? Now, number 1 in there is it's got to be genuine. But then it goes through, and it's 100 years old, right? You guys know the book, right? Anyone else it just comes back to, how do you build influence and rapport with people? Well, the main core of it is you've got to be about them, right? And Joe, what I love what you said is, we created a rule a while ago, just as a reminder, and this is great for anyone listening. It's post, tag, and praise, but never about you. And you just demonstrated that when you say somebody's telling you something that's insightful and you record it, and then you go post about it. You post, you tag them, and you praise them for something that they've done. And not only are you honoring them, but everybody reading it, they get exposed to that person's brilliance, but they're also seeing you as the one that's lifting them up and promoting what they've said. And that draws them to both of you. I think that system alone, that little strategy alone that you've done, is absolutely brilliant at many levels. I want to get back to this, because thank you everybody, Barbara and Janice and Diane, who's commenting and bringing them in. I thought this was really interesting, and I know, Joe, you have a pretty strong opinion about this, and some insights on it. So do you think it's the comments on others that is creating the conversations more than your content?
Oh, wow, Janice, that is, I got to think about that. Can I get back to you on Monday? Because that's a powerful question. I think your content does nothing more than get people's attention. I'll be honest, I don't know if people truly, I'll spend an hour for somebody to take a peek for 3 minutes or 3 seconds on a post, right? But they'll remember the theme or just the general gist of, and they may want to go back to that. I don't have a strong feeling, but it's a hunch. I guess I would need some action research around this. I think it's more the comments. I think it's more the engaging with the others than your actual content. But you can't, you don't earn that favor unless you've got content that's adding value. So if you're just throwing crud out there, right, you're never going to get any responses to the comments, because you're just like everybody else. So adding 100x value to your content, I think, is important for you to earn the right for somebody to appreciate their comment to their post.
Thomas, what do you think?
I think one's based on the other, which is pretty much exactly what Joe just said. You can't have one without the other and have the impact that you would have without the other. So you need both ingredients in that process. And furthermore, aside from just commenting, you want to be able to reach out to those people in effective ways to continue that on in a way that allows the relationship to become something more than just comments on a post. And that's the tricky bit. And that's the bit that actually takes skill and takes practice to put into place. So these things are all very much related to each other as a step in a cadence process that you want to create. So I think it's wonderful.
Yeah. There's Janice. You can't see me, but I'm nodding my head. I'm glad you're getting a lot out of it. And I think, and this might just be reiterating what you guys said, is that commenting and sharing content are two steps in a 1-2 cadence. But it really comes down to the quality of those. As you guys were saying, both of you have said this, if you just go and kind of drive by and comment on somebody's post, which is totally clear to everybody that you're just trying to go, look at me, it doesn't do any good. In fact, it has a complete opposite effect. It's even more negative than just being there. And so it really is about, it's like, I could go have a steak and a potato and a glass of wine for dinner tonight, but it really depends on the quality of the steak, the quality of the wine, and if the potato's from Idaho or not. I've lived there for 8 years, but you know what I'm saying? It's the quality of the ingredients. It's really the quality of the thoughtfulness of our post, and it's the thoughtfulness and the other oriented, as Joe said early on, of our comments. I think it's not hard. You just got to be thoughtful and slow down. And then, Thomas, you said it's about getting trained to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not an easy process.
No.
And it's a bit illogical as well, because the mainstream would say, and I'm not fully, I'm not a hater of, some of the funneling systems out there. But the mainstream would say, get your email marketing cooking. I mean, get just the conventional stuff that marketeers are telling you need to do. So this is a bit illogical to those folks that are, and I had my own suspicions going into this, but until I actually really authenticated it within my own just daily practice, you start to learn that no, illogical is the only real way to create that engagement that we're after. So
I love what you just said, by the way. I think that is very, very true. And not to make a negative out of it, because it's not a negative, it's a reality. Marketing is not the same as building relationships and using social media to develop and convert those into something of meaning. That's not the same. Marketing is putting your brand out there such that you can start or begin that process potentially if it's used properly and leveraged properly. But standalone, it doesn't do that, right? So you've got to be able to combine those things in the way that you just allowed. That was beautiful. And they don't often understand that, but sales doesn't often understand that marketing needs to be there helping you in that way as well. So it becomes another relationship that's part of a whole string of relationships that gets results. And at the end of the day, everybody in that relationship is a person. And the more you treat them as that person, the more likely it is they're going to treat you likewise. I love it.
So good.
That's really good. And Barbara and Diane, great comments there. Yeah, we want to share good nuggets that others can ponder. And Joe, you really hit that home at the beginning, is nobody cares about us, right? They care about themselves, and that's okay. And the more that we give to them, then actually they do start to care about what we say. And that's conversation that leads to the conversion, as Joe said. And I like how Diane said it too. Comments are like reviews, provides different perspectives and ways to look at subjects. I'm going to come back to another comment from Janice. And Joe, I'm going to throw this to you. She said, we can get sucked into a social media vortex, but how much time are you spending daily or weekly on this?
This could be like a therapy session, perhaps. I think anybody in the startup world, and I'm still on the journey of, just really establishing some practices and content and the solution and all of that for my particular sector. So I'm on probably the very aggressive edge or the exaggerated edge of spending a lot of time on social right now because I'm hustling. That's just the reality. I'm not hustling in a manipulative way. But I'm spending on a daily basis, Janet, collectively, if you just take the augmentation of all minutes, I bet I'm 3 or 4 hours a day on social. But a lot of that is just doing things that I enjoy doing. It's not because I have to do it. I want. There's a lot of people out there. There are a lot of people that deserve to be encouraged and respected, and so it's just that. I suppose if you ran that into the traditional, Thomas, you talked about, social is no different than real life. Well, if I spent 3 hours on a golf course, nobody would scorn me for that. Well, maybe my wife would if there was stuff to do on a Saturday, but I mean, no different than we're just out networking. We're out just loving on people and
being people.
Yeah. Thomas, how would you answer that question that Janice had?
Yeah, so I think that's all really relevant to the answer. But I would also add that it depends on how you define that. So if I spend 2 hours watching videos on TikTok, that's probably a little different than what I think we're discussing, right?
What's TikTok? What is that?
Okay. Well, that's
yeah.
but you get my point. So there's
Yeah.
it depends upon the activity, I suppose. I mean, I myself would admit that I spend a lot of time on social too, but I do so doing a number of different things as part of a process in which I build business and opportunities. There's research. There is no better tool for research, both in terms of people and companies and events and all the things that interlink, than social media. It's real time, it's right there, and you can actually see how people are relating to it as such. So, research is a big part of it. Engaging, creating content, those are all very relevant components of it. So, when you add all these things up, and then reaching out and having those conversations and creating the opportunities that can come from that, yeah, that's a lot of time. But it's time that you're not spending doing all of those other things, whatever they may have been in the past, that didn't get you anywhere, right? So it's about being productive in a way that suits what you're doing, not what somebody else is doing. What you're doing is very different than perhaps somebody else might be doing, and it's based upon your personality and your environment and your industry and the objectives that you have, not what somebody else has. So try not to base how much time you spend necessarily on what somebody else does, because if you're having impact and getting results and you're doing less or more, but you're getting those results, then it's working. So at the end of the day, what is your objective? Why are you there? What are you trying to do? And if you're getting results, then you're doing it. And if you're not, then you need to look at that.
Yeah. I think, again, I'm going to kind of summarize what you two said, or bring it, because I think you both said brilliant things with it. Is Joe, you said at first, oh, this could become a therapy session. And I think, clarify if I'm wrong, it's because we've got this thing in society right now that social media is bad, that it's a place that we waste time. And the fact that we use social media as a tool to network, to meet new people, to create more conversations that's strategically designed to move our business forward. I like it when I spend more time on social media for that reason. Is that what you were kind of referencing when you said it could be therapy session?
Yeah, it's our mindset towards social. I mean, it's just like any other tool out there. It can be used for good or for ill. I don't really. We hardly own a TV, so everything that I do engages in this world. Mostly professional, but there's also just some fun stuff that is happening out there.
Yeah.
As well.
And I think that's like getting over that. The first stage, right? Then it leads us into the second, which is social media is a tool. And if you have a strategic purpose and then you have a strategic plan, it's like anything else. Like it blows me away when we hear, sales leaders that'll say, pound the phones, hit your numbers, spend 8 hours a day cold calling, do that social stuff on your own time. And it's like, okay, well, I can agree with that in theory, in any theory, but you got to take a look at the data and go, what is these 8 hours a day producing other than numbers that said you made calls? Is the goal to make calls, or is the goal to have conversations? And now you got to break it down and look at what's the return on your effort, what's a return on your time. And I think anybody, whatever business you're in, that's the approach to take with social media.
I'm building back a lot of relationships based upon making those 8 hours worth of calls in a previous life. They actually were damaging.
Yeah. And I love this. Barbara, she also said, I love social, and it's free marketing, especially for entrepreneurs. If you do it the right way, and Joe, I do want to come back before we run out of time. I was going to say, if you do it the right way, it's the most efficient, most cost-effective way to create conversations. Joe, you had commented on one of my posts a while ago, and your comment was, in that order, I have 10x conversations. And I want to get to that because that was kind of the catalyst of this conversation. Talk about that order, because I think that's important. We touched on it a little earlier, but I really think that that's important, and how you do it in that order.
So are we going back to just the content, comments, conversations?
Yeah, and I think I just wanted to I love that. I wanted to emphasize the order of it and why you think that's so important.
Well, I think it's developmental. It's if you take one of them out of there, if you're just commenting, again, have you earned the right to comment on my, because I don't even know who you are. So having valuable content that you're putting out there, it's a role that we have to play that says, let me go first, right? Let me play as somebody giving you, some value. So I think developmentally that opens the door for you to be able to have the comment next. And I think the hardest place is to actually build that relationship, because you're not going to ask for a conversation after a comment.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe after a dozen comments on where truly you've almost had this dialogue going comment to comment over the course of weeks, sometimes months, right, with individuals.
Mm-hmm.
I've even tried putting, there's a lot of applications out there where you can automate these content, you can automate your content and the comments and drive it to conversations. But I've even found that just going as manual as I can to these things, right? Knowing almost just a visceral sense of, I think we're ready for a conversation now, but not moving too early into that. So it really is a developmental, but I don't think there's an algorithm to this. I actually think that people can feel when they're part of some sort of a AI system maybe out there as well, right? So I think there's just something authentic to, just going about just the plodding away, putting out your content. I do that every single day. And what I do want to mention, one of the things that I've discovered is to have a regular rhythm of what type of content you're putting out as well. Because if you're just putting out the same, there's enough memes out there where you can take a picture of something and just put that's cute, but it's not real practical. So I put a calendar together. Okay. So if you're following, you're going to see every Monday, there's something motivational to the message, right? Every Tuesday, there's a tool that I use in my practice that I want to just kind of give away and have you think about that as a framework to solve some of your own problems. That's Tuesdays. Wednesdays, I blog. So that's, you're going to spend a few minutes reading from Joe on Wednesday. Thursday, that's my video time. I usually do one video a week, and that's usually with somebody else. Or it's usually on the heels of something that I've done on a campus that was kind of enlightening, and I just want to bring people into that. And Fridays, today's a fun day. Today's just a fun day. You put some humor out there. Most often it's been a long week, so we levitate a bit on Fridays, but sometimes on Saturdays or Sundays I'll do something real personal. Just something, Miss Becky is my wife, and she gets a lot of my attention in social because I'm just kind of attracted to all the things that she does. So I might take a picture or have a family picture, or we're expecting our second grandbaby this week. So, it's something related to just us as a family on Saturday or Sunday.
Why is that personal publishing of posts like that so important?
I don't know that I have a theory, but I can tell you from the data, I can spend hours and hours working on a tool and writing, good copy around that tool. But I'll post a picture of, my son and I doing something dorky, and 10x people are responding to that more so than they are something that I've just honed and refined and really worked a professional edge to nearly perfect. You tell me. I'm not sure, but the more personal we are out there, the more engagement we tend to get.
Yeah. I would say it's social is meant to be social, and we're humans at the core of who we are. I'm going to say that. Dr. Barbara, thank you so much for joining us today and for contributing to the discussion. I appreciate that. We all appreciate it. Joe, that was great. Thomas, we've got a few minutes late. What you want to pick it up from what he just shared there?
Well, I mean, the whole conversation has been fabulous.
Yeah.
And I think it really takes everybody who's had the opportunity to listen now and in the future as they watch the reruns, that social media is a lot more than just throwing stuff up and hoping stuff happens, right? And that doesn't work. And if you listen to this, you're going to see and hear a lot of things that can work. There was a question there: how do I create a social plan? Well, the social plan you create, and by the way, that's a great step to take, and Joe's outlined an excellent version thereof, but that's Joe's plan. That may not be your plan, because Joe's goals and my goals, Brandon's goals, are likely very different than yours. So your plan starts with the goals and the objectives, and then you build it out from there. But the kind of steps that Joe illuminated there, and that you'll see all of us do if you look at our social media, is very, very much honed to the kinds of things that we want to do, which is connect and create conversations and have opportunities that we wouldn't otherwise have. So that would be my wrap up.
Yeah. And I would just add to it, Diane, that it's got to be you, and only you can create that, right? It's got to be personal to you. And just as an example, I do dad jokes as part of my sequence. And well, it's because I have 5 kids and I love dad jokes, and I've been saying them for years just to get my kids to roll their eyes. And it's a part of the humanness that I would like to portray into the social realms, because it gives a glimpse of who I am as a human being, where I'm not constantly just hiding behind my title. And I think, especially with COVID and lockdown, what I've seen is being, eyeball deep in LinkedIn for the last 6 years, is that COVID has turned LinkedIn into a bit more social and more personal and more human. And I think that's a good thing, because we never did business with people and, hey, let's go have dinner and take a client out to dinner and then talk about nothing but business. That's when we talked about, tell me about your family, tell me about your hobbies, tell me about your, how you got here. We've got to be more human, because I think people are drawn to, their human is drawn to our humans. So, Dr. Joe, it's all yours to wrap it up, take it home, and let people know where they can find you if they wanted to reach out and talk with you.
Yeah, good discussion, good exchange, good questions. I think, it's all about hustling. We're all hustling. We all have important work to do, for whatever sector you happen to be running on. But I think the more you hustle for others and help others, the more they will hustle and help you. But the more you try to sell anything, the more they're going to hide from you. So it's just this inverted mindset. I would say put it to the test. Try a few things, maybe some of these ideas that we've talked about here today. Keep the lines open. I think these 2 gentlemen I think are top of the game, because I've experienced that. So I would encourage you to reach out to just maybe refine your practices with Thomas and Brandon. Anything in my space. I'm on LinkedIn. That's kind of my primary space. Dr. Joe Hill. If you want to reach out to me via email, I don't know, do we still do that anymore? It's joe@higherperformancegroup.com.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, Janice.
Yeah.
I've grown up, Janice. I've grown up.
I thought you could appreciate it.
No, my memory has gone bad. It's like, I don't know. Is it Dr. Seuss?
Yeah. I don't know how to rhyme anymore.
Best dad joke. Do you have a good one for us, Brandon, to kind of bring us?
You know what? One of my favorite ones, someone just asked me the other day, and I was kind of going through, I've got 2 of them that I like the best. One is, what is the difference between Iron Man and Aluminum Man? Iron Man stops the criminals, and Aluminum Man, well, he just foils their plans. And the other one is, do you know where I store all my dad jokes? It's in my database. Yeah.
I've been telling my wife lately to embrace her struggles, and she keeps hugging me.
I like
there
it.
we go.
I like it.
There
Well,
we
you
go.
got to start moving out of the dad jokes into the granddad jokes.
I think
I
so.
hear they're even better when you say them on the grandkids. So, Janice, Diane, Dr. Barbara, Todd. Hopefully I didn't miss anyone else that commented. Thank you all so much for participating in our conversation today. Dr. Joe Hill, of course, thank you so much. Love you, brother. Thanks for joining us and sharing your experience. Joe makes me a better human being. Every time I'm on a call with him, Joe makes me a better human being. I really appreciate that about him.
Likewise.
Hey, everyone else, if you're not a member of Digitize HQ, this is what we do. We talk all things digital from the front lines to the C-suite. If you have a topic that you want to share that you think we should have a conversation, bring it in. You want to be a guest and come and share your experiences, let us know. We'd love to have you join us, but Digitize HQ and LinkedIn, on Facebook groups. We'll add the links here when we're done. And then digitizehq.com is up. It's live. It's not quite ready to accept signups, but it's coming really soon. So there we go, everybody. Have a great Friday. Dr. Joe, thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe.
See you, everybody.